I was lucky enough to find the new D&D minifigure series early, so today we're going to be taking an in-depth look at each of them and ranking them on a tier list. If you'd like to make your own list, I'll leave a link below to the website where I made mine. Starting up first, we've got the new Dragonborn Paladin. This is without a doubt the most popular fig in the series, and I think it's pretty obvious as to why. We get some seriously gorgeous prints on both the side of the legs and the arms. It's intricately detailed with plate armor and chainmail in between each piece. It feels extremely realistic, but not overly detailed, which is a really hard line to walk. Then we have the new armor mold that combines these two parts. This was just such a terrific idea, and these slight modifications to the old breastplate piece looks great. Underneath the armor, we've got probably my favorite part of this whole figure. The white and gold tabard hidden under the armor looks unbelievably good, and it has so much potential for making your own custom band of knights. You can also turn the torso around and use the back print, which will add even more variation into your army. I'm currently building an army of these guys right now, and I should have a video out about them sometime later this week, so stay on the lookout for that. Finally, we have the dragon shield and head. The head is a mold that we've seen a couple of times before, but I think it still looks lovely. The print on the face is really sharp, and the copper bits of scales right above the eye really sells the look for me. And then the shield itself is just perfect. The details are simple, but the colors and graphic design work are sharp, and they match well with the figure itself. And the same is true for the weapon. The blue and gold looks very classy, and it complements the white and silver of the figure beautifully. This fig is an all-time great, and it'll be a top contender for best minifigure of the year for me and many others. This one's going straight into the S tier. I cannot wait to see what everyone does with this fig. The custom armies are going to be crazy. Next up, we've got the Tiefling Sorcerer, another one of my personal favorites from this series. The standout element of this figure for me is definitely the new dragon baby piece. It's super cute in that classic Lego way, and I hope we see this piece come in some more sets, hopefully in some other colors as well. But as for the figure itself, I absolutely adore this new hairpiece for tieflings. And I think D&D people will love making their own custom tiefling characters with this head and hair combo. Speaking of which, this is one of the figures in the set that comes with both a masculine and a feminine face. This just lets you customize them however you want, which I am always a huge fan of. And the fact that they give you two heads instead of just one printed on both sides is really nice to see. Also, each minifigure apart from these two have gloves on, so that means you can swap the heads around as you please without having to worry about skin on the actual torso. This series was already going to be primed for customization and mismatching, so the fact that skin isn't shown on most of the figures just makes it way easier to do that. Anyways, back to the tiefling. The prints on the torso and legs look really nice, although maybe a little costumey, if you know what I mean. Not bad by any means, just really not my cup of tea. With that being said, the gold and dark purple colors complement each other super well, and I've got some really fun customization ideas for them in another video. For now, I'll place them in the A tier. Next up, we've got Strahd von Zarovich. If you can't tell, I don't know anything about Dungeons & Dragons, so forgive me, but I'm just not a fan of this fig. The prints on the torso and legs feel, again, very costumey. I don't know this guy, I'm not familiar with the lore, but he just kind of looks like a Marvel character, and I don't mean that as a compliment. It's probably just a case of this not being for me, because I don't really care that much about D&D, but I do, however, love getting this hairpiece in black, and the possessed-looking, like, pet rat that he has is a very fun inclusion. Not much else for me to say about him, so he'll be going into the D tier. On a more positive note, we have the Elf Bard up next. Immediately, the torso stands out to me. The teal color is fairly rare in Lego, so I always love getting it on a minifigure, and this one has a very classic fantasy bard look to it that I love. It's one of the simpler prints in this batch of figs, but it just works. The same is true for the legs. They are a very simple dark orange and brown dual molded piece with a very generic but versatile print on top of it. I've already tried making a few customs with these parts, and I'm very happy with the results. But that's for another video. Now, the head and hair combo on this fig is really nice, and it comes in some rarer skin tone that I don't think I have many of at all. And then finally, they also come with a gold cutlass and a brand new printed version of the loot, which looks great. Overall, this is one of my favorites from the pack, and it's going to be going into the A tier. Next up, we've got the Mind Flayer. In terms of unique head molds, this one has got to be one of the crazier ones I've ever seen. The tentacles are properly gross looking, and the eyes are both menacing but still goofy looking and Lego-ish, if you know what I mean. The details on the rest of the minifigure are subtle, but really do well to add some depth to the figure, and they just nailed the look of a Mind Flayer. To go with him, he's got an intellect devourer. There's not much to say about it other than that it is super cute and you can place it on top of minifigure heads. This is a great minifigure that in any other series would go into the A tier, but because there's just so many better looking figs in this series, it's gonna go in B. Next up, we've got the bird guy. In my last video about this series, I had a ton of people asking why I didn't say anything about this figure, and well, it's because it was kind of plain next to all the other figs. That's the reason. I also had a lot of people correcting me about the names and races of the characters, which I really appreciated for the first couple of people that corrected me. And then I got about 200 comments about me foolishly calling the Lady of Pain a druid. That's my bad. But back to the bird guy. Apparently they are actually the Jarnathan race, which sounds pretty ridiculous to be honest with you, but like whatever you like, not for me to make fun of. Anyways, so this Jarnathan comes with a beautifully detailed dark orange torso that is complemented super nicely with some green and brown. I think the earthy tones really do well on this torso, and it makes me wish we got a pair of legs to match it, but whatever. Now, I do like the head on this guy, but it does remind me a little bit of Lego Chima, so that does knock off a few points. Oh my god. However, getting this brand new wing neck piece is really cool, and I hope we see it return in some other colors. And then of course for the accessories, we get a puppy and one of the new bows in dark tan. Overall, this fig is pretty good, and if you're a fan of this apparently super popular D&D race, then I could see you placing this one in the S tier, but for me, it's going in B. Now next up, I want to talk about these two figs. Again, keep in mind, this is coming from the point of view of a LEGO medieval fantasy fan, not a D&D fan. So I'm clearly not the target audience for these two named characters from the lore. But with that being said, there's still some things I like about them. In particular, I think the dress on the Lady of Pain is really, really well done. It's got a very sharp design, and I plan on making some kind of custom wizard with these parts. And the headpiece is obviously extremely well done, but again, it just doesn't do anything for me. They've got a super strong look, but it just isn't my favorite, so they're going in the C tier. And then we have Zaz Tam, who comes with some great accessories like the dark red capes, and this translucent skeleton head that I imagine people are going to be fiending after on Bricklink. And then the prints on the fig itself are really good looking, but again, just aren't jaw-dropping like some of the other figures in this series. Again, these two aren't bad figs, they just don't seem as interesting next to something like the Dragonborn. So he's gonna go in the D tier. Only 4 more figs to go, so let's take a look at the two that really surprised me after seeing them in person. The Druid and the Barbarian. When I first saw images of these two online, I really wasn't that convinced by them. I liked some of the parts they had, but on the whole just wasn't that impressed. That changed immediately after building them. For example, the Druid's cape has this gorgeous sheen on it, and it's double-sided with one being a nice dark green and the other brown. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it just has this really pretty shine to it, and it isn't like any other LEGO cape I've ever seen before. As for the torso, it's really solid, and it looks exactly like something I'd imagine a Druid would wear. But of course, the main star of this fig is the crowned antler hood that he's wearing. It's one of the coolest looking molded helmets we've gotten in a while, and it even gives Basil's helmet from earlier this year a run for its money. Then to top it all off, we get a naturalist staff and a new printed version of a bird. This guy looks unbelievably good, he's going in the A tier. And then the big surprise for me after seeing it in person was the Dwarf Barbarian. Starting with the torso, this might be the best one of the whole pack. It's fairly subtle compared to some of the others that we've looked at, but to me it has just the right amount of detail. The stitched pattern going up the torso looks great, and these printed arms are going to be really fun to use in some custom Vikings. Speaking of which, the new double-bladed axe piece will also be so nice for custom Vikings. And then for the head and hair, I am so happy to get this hairpiece, as it's one that I don't already have in my collection. As for the faces, I think the female one just looks a lot better overall. The male one's alright, don't get me wrong, but the orange beard just looks kind of off. Either way, this figure looks great, and I will definitely be trying to get a couple more of them before this set retires. So they'll go into the A tier with the Druid. And finally, we have the Githyanki Warlock and Tasha the Witch Queen. The Warlock probably has the second best looking torso and legs in the whole pack for me. Dark blue and brown is just a real classy color combination, and all of the trinkets and pouches that he's got go really well on this guy. Then moving up the fig, he's got this spiked shoulder armor in brown that is just the cherry on top of this fig. He also of course has the new elf hairpiece that came out earlier this year, but this time in yellow and black. While I would have preferred to have an olive green skin tone for the Githyanki, I think LEGO made the right choice by having them be yellow so that you can use this hairpiece on all of your yellow skinned minifigures. But other than that, his accessories are a staff with a purple eyeball and this brand new knife mold that I am a huge fan of. You actually get an extra piece of armor and knife with each of them, which I was really surprised to see. This is a stellar minifigure and it's going right into the S tier. Now, last but not least, we have the Witch Queen. I really love how this one looks. The torso and leg combo is just great, and the printed arms, as simple as they are super well done. Then we of course also have the recolored hat piece from that one Disney witch movie that millennials love. I can never seem to remember the name of it. But the recolor from that set is just perfect here, and I'm glad they're getting another use out of this mold because it's got a ton of character to it. And then finally, her accessories are a printed spellbook and a cauldron with some pink fire inside of it. Easily in my top 3 figs from the series, this one's also going in the S tier. And that's all 12 of the figs. I would love to talk about customization and some ideas that I came up with for these guys, but this video is already long enough, so later this week I'll be doing another video all about customizing these guys, and another video later on about my new Dragon Knight army that I am so excited to show you. So if you enjoyed this video, why not subscribe? And as always, thank you so much for watching.